Hello, and welcome to channel Ein Key, and I am your host, Voluntary. Much to my amazement, Paul Krugman finally went so far that even the New York Times couldn't handle what he wrote. The famous economist, who even disgraced the Nobel Prize Committee by winning the Nobel Prize in Economics, wrote a headline so extreme that the New York Times had to change it. And of course, Mr. Krugman objected to the change. The original headline is, "How Many Americans Will Ayn Rand Kill?" The new headline is, "When Libertarianism Goes Bad." Of all the people alive today, I think Paul Krugman is the greatest enemy, the arch enemy of liberty. To understand him, you have to understand his ideology. He is considered Keynesian, but he is much more than that. This might surprise you, but I support the free market as an economic system. I call it capitalism, but there are some who agree with me on economics who disagree with that choice of names. To put it simply, it is the economic system with minimal government involvement. Just how minimal differs between minarchists and anarchists, but both agree that less is better. If there are taxes and spending and regulation, each of them are kept as little and few as possible in order to avoid distorting the market. All other economic systems are various ways in which one might depart from capitalism. There are two basic ways of doing this: monetarism and Keynesianism. Monetarism is the economic system where the money supply is controlled, either directly or by proxy, by the government. It is the policy of central banking. The theory is that by manipulating such banking features as the prime interest rate and the marginal reserve requirement, the economy can be steered. Keynesianism, by the textbook definition, is the economic system which focuses on fiscal policy instead of monetary policy. The theory is that the government can moderate the economy by spending less and taxing more during times of prosperity, and spending more and taxing less during recessions. The government is supposed to run a surplus during the boom times and a deficit during the bust times. Mind, this is only the textbook definition, and that will be important later. Also relevant to this discussion is something with great economic impact, but is not itself an economic system, and that is control through regulation, the progressive approach. There are many other economic systems, such as supply-side economics, demand-side economics, social safety net, but they are all mixtures in various parts of Keynesianism, monetarism, and progressive regulation. Once you get past that, you get to things like socialism, and you are in fact talking about the abdication of economics instead of economics. Notice, though, that I said Keynesian by the textbook definition. That's because once you have the textbook definition, you have to go farther to understand the modern synthesis of Keynesian economics. Keynesian economists embrace not just Keynesian economics, but also monetarism and progressive regulation. The modern Keynesian economist embraces any and every government intervention into the economy. That's one of the reasons politicians love Keynesian economists, because they can find a justification for anything the politician might want to do to the economy. That's a typical Keynesian. Now, people like to equivocate between textbook and real world, so that when you're called out on their monitors to regulatory positions, they like to say, Keynesianism is all about fiscal policy, nothing more. Yet while Keynesianism is nothing more, Keynesians are much more. That is the starting place for understanding Paul Krugman. See, while Keynesians can justify any political intrusion in the economy, Paul Krugman actually believes in every political intrusion. He barely tolerates the capitalist underpinnings that all the variations depend on to exist, and has never met an intrusive policy he doesn't like. He favors the Democrats because while both parties like government in control, the Democrats do not pretend otherwise. He recognizes the same thing I recognize, that as I see, he is the arch nemesis of libertarianism. He sees libertarianism as the polar opposite of everything he stands for. Still, he managed to go so far overboard that even the New York Times felt the need to change his headline. This time, it is because there are people who do not agree with the protective measures that are recommended to deter COVID. You see, even disagreeing with the government is something he isn't comfortable with. He doesn't seem particularly concerned with giving people choice in unimportant matters. But if the government says it, you better do it. Even if you disagree based on having come to an opposite conclusion based on the evidence, having a goal in common but chosen a different method than the government control, you are still wrong. For an example of honestly coming to another conclusion but wanting the same goal, compare mainstream environmentalism to free market environmentalism. They share the same goal of a cleaner environment. They have completely opposite methods to achieve that goal. If you share a goal with Paul Krugman but differ on the method, it is guaranteed that his method has more government involvement than yours, and therefore you are wrong. As far as Paul Krugman is concerned, COVID is probably one of the best things to ever happen. Not that he would put it in those words. Why it is so good is because, like any crisis, it enables the growth of government. But this is a particularly scary crisis at a particularly volatile time. So therefore, if you don't wear your mask, it is because you are selfishly individualist and want people to die. And if you are selfishly individualist and want people to die, that can only be because you were influenced by Ayn Rand. After all, the heroes of Ayn Rand's novels were well known for killing anyone they disagreed with. Sarcasm alert for the sarcasm impaired and the woke. In the description, I've linked the original article, the New York Times version, which is word for word the same, excepting the title change, and 2 other articles giving a very good analysis of Mr. Krugman's article. Thank you for watching. We're now in the double digits for subscribers, and hopefully we will only keep growing. So please like, share, comment, and subscribe to help my channel grow.